Amnesty International says a lack of accountability for victims and their families is a recurring theme, shall I say, in South Africa. The spokesperson, Genevieve Quintal, joins us now for more on this. Genevieve, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. When it comes to the Marikana prosecution, we saw a statement earlier on today, for example, an update from the NPA saying, well, one of the matters that they had to deal with, for example, when they handed over the matter for prosecution to the Northwest, was a lack of capacity.
Good evening, Tabo. Thank you so much for having us. Sure, a lack of capacity, meaning, this lack of capacity means 11 years of no justice for families. It sometimes becomes an easy excuse, and we've heard it in many instances. It doesn't change the fact that there's been no accountability for the brutal loss of life from that day. The actions were unlawful under South African domestic law, which obliges police officers to act within a framework of minimum force, and under international laws and standards, in particular, the obligation to respect and protect life. That did not happen on that day, and as I said, 11 years for accountability, and we're not even there yet, Tabo. As much as they're telling us they're ready to prosecute, I saw earlier the NPA had said they're ready to go forward. 11 years is a long time.
Yeah. Those that they have pursued, an officer here and there, some of them have been acquitted. They've pursued those who were their employees and so on and so forth. Are those significant enough cases to pursue, or would you say those were the easy pickings?
I don't know if you could say easy pickings, but no, that's not enough. I mean, what happened if I'm not mistaken, those were the incidences running up to the 16th of August 2012. But the major loss of life on the 16th of August, on that fateful day when 34 miners were killed and more than 70 wounded, we have all seen that footage. Those of us who were watching TV that day saw with our own eyes what had happened. We have, as Amnesty International South Africa, we did write to IPID and to the National Prosecuting Authority in the Northwest. IPID did tell us that, they are dealing with 600, they're looking at 600 officers, 600 cases, but that it is in the hands of the Northwest NPA, apologies. But yeah, it's scene one, scene two, as everyone knows, that fateful day. That's the crux of this whole matter, and that really, that was also at the hands of the police who are meant to be protecting citizens, who are a police force run by our government. Our taxpayers' money go towards that police force, and that police force was killing citizens that day. Yeah.
This, of course, leads to questions, for example, being raised, and we hear now, for example, in the clip that we've just played, Joseph Matunjwa saying, well, the laws of the country, the constitution of the country promotes inequality. Is it a fact that there are not enough laws in the country that would guarantee that the people of Marikana get the kind of reparation and the kind of justice that they need to see, or do we need to bring something else into the system?
Tabo, we've got progressive laws in this country. We have one of the best constitutions in the world. It's about implementing those laws. It's about implementing that constitution, that Bill of Rights. It's all there. It's all there but we need the will, the political will, for there to be accountability, for people to be held accountable. When we say that, a culture of impunity in South Africa is allowed to continue, we see in many instances how people are not held accountable for wrongdoing. And here we are again. We have progressive laws. We have progressive legislation. As I said, one of the best constitutions in the world. We have enough. And so something should have been done long ago. Not here we are 11 years. We got an excuse, we call it an excuse from IPID saying that they had to stop investigations when the Farlam Commission sat. And that's why there hasn't been any accountability yet. But they only started investigations again in 2015. That's 6 years ago. you're telling me in 6 years there still hasn't been able to be any movement on this case. Now today, as we commemorate 11 years, they want to tell us they're ready to move forward. Are we going to hear the same thing next year? Our laws, our progressive laws and constitution need to be implemented.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at that statement a little bit. One of the issues that they're saying, having noted the litigious nature and the complexity of the incident, all role players have been in constant consultation to fast-track the process. To what extent are they consulting, and to what extent is this matter complex? Because, as you put it, for many, and particularly for the victims, they saw this playing out live on TV. They would think that would not make it as complex as I suppose the NPA is making it out to be.
So, well, those are the answers we don't have. What is happening in these consultations? We're asking I know the police, the investigations are being led by the NPA, understandably so. Are we going to ask the police to investigate themselves? But this is one state institution investigating another state institution. Is that the issue? We don't know what's happening in these consultations. We're not getting that exact information. The information I've given you is literally just what the iPad told us. We don't have that information. Are consultations taking so long? If there was a chain of command, who was the chain of command? Surely there is evidence of this. We just still don't understand what is taking so long. Is it an issue of evidence collecting? Because the evidence should have been collected that day thoroughly. We had the Farlam Commission. More evidence was given then. What is happening now? Why 11 years later, when so much has happened in between, and a commission of inquiry? We don't understand as Amnesty International South Africa why we're still sitting here now 11 years later without accountability. And to answer your question again, we don't know what's happening in these consultations and how they are happening and who they're happening with, because it's quite clear from the news reports we've seen today that it's not the families or the victims that are being consulted at all. So what is actually happening? Then they need to give us a breakdown of this process.
When something of this nature happens, I mean, where the necessary resources are not being made available, or a matter, it looks to us being shifted from one area to another deliberately. At some point, it's with the NPA National. At some point, it's with the NPA in the Northwest. At some point, there's a team being assembled of senior advocates. At some point, it's back again to the Northwest Police to investigate. It speaks of somebody who could be deliberately trying to delay this matter and not wanting it to actually come to a head.
Absolutely, Thabo. So we don't want to make assumptions, but we've seen and resources for the NPA, even the SAPS, and has been an issue for years. We know the NPA has been complaining for many years about a lack of resources. But we've also seen when there's a will and a political will, we very easily are able to shift resources. And I think we saw it with the Zondo Commission and after the Zondo Commission. Yes, we haven't seen prosecutions there yet, but if we remember correctly, there were people seconded to the NPA, people that can do forensics, investigations, etc. So we are able to, if something is a priority, we are able to very quickly move resources. Why has the same thing not happened here to ensure there's accountability for the major loss of life on the 16th of August? Surely we could have seconded those resources to the NPA so that this matter was finalized sooner rather than later.
Considering the seriousness of the offenses that are being faced by police officers and all those who are involved, how much is this, for example, compromising, in your view, the fight against crime in the country? And you know that the numbers when it comes to murder, particularly in South Africa, are quite high.
So what we as Amnesty International South Africa have been calling for the last year, 2 years, is an overhaul of investigations from a SAPS level, because yes, we are seeing murder, incidents of gender-based violence, sexual assault, etc., crime just increasing, the loss of life increasing because of this. And there's And because we're not getting, there's no accountability, people aren't being held accountable, so there's not a deterrent for those who are perpetrators of this crime. And because we don't have that, and whether it be a lack of resources, whether it be corruption within the criminal justice system, whether it be a lack of training, all of this is leading to a lack of confidence in those who are in our criminal justice system, and the fact that we don't, and I think this is why we're talking about this culture of impunity that seems to be happening across different areas in our country, because we don't have the accountability mechanisms in place. So,
11 years on, we could possibly be going, looking at 12 years. If we were to see, in your view, some kind of movement in this matter, what kind of campaign would you be putting together, particularly around the prosecution failures?
So, Thabo, we're a legal organization based on legal principles, and we want to see the law implemented, and we want to see accountability held, and everyone has a right to a free trial. So we want to see a trial, a prosecution that's done thoroughly, openly, and that those who are held accountable, that those who are the perpetrators of this massacre are held accountable. Who those are, they're not for us to say. That needs to be determined by a court of law. But we need to see a criminal justice system that works properly and works for victims. Otherwise, I think people of South Africa, the people living in South Africa, are just going to feel even more hopeless about, and the loss of trust is just going to be even bigger. We need to see actual proper action. We need to see these progressive laws and legislation that we talk about being implemented. When you see our criminal justice system working for the people in South Africa.
Genevieve Quintal, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming and speaking on behalf of Amnesty International.